I had been married to Sophie for almost 10 years. At first, everything was perfect. Love, stability, trust. We built a life together, supported each other's dreams, and shared many of the same values. But over the past year, something changed. The spark we once had seemed to fade. Sophie started becoming distant. The late nights at work turned into excuses for not coming home at all. The phone calls she used to take in private began to raise questions in my mind. Was I paranoid, or was something happening behind my back? It was during this period of doubt that I began to suspect the one thing I never imagined would happen. Sophie was planning a divorce. It wasn't a single moment that made me suspicious, but a gradual shift in her behavior. She had always been an open person, sharing everything with me even when times were tough. But then I started noticing small things, like how she would avoid discussing our finances, or how she began to make cryptic comments about living our best lives and starting fresh. She wasn't herself, and I could feel it in the air every time we spoke. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became. Sophie was planning to leave me. I started researching how to protect myself in case things went south. At first, I wasn't sure what to do, but I knew I had to act fast. Divorce wasn't something I was willing to go through blindly, especially when I suspected there were hidden motives behind Sophie's actions. I decided to make a move, a precautionary one, something that would ensure I wasn't left high and dry. I'd been fortunate to build a small empire of assets over the years, property investments, savings, and even stocks. If I was right, and Sophie had planned on taking half of everything, I wanted to make sure I'd be okay if she took that route. Without her knowing, I secretly moved the majority of our joint savings into an account under my name. I transferred stocks and made sure they were under my sole ownership. I made a few changes to the trust fund we had set up for our kids, just in case things escalated. It wasn't something I wanted to do, but I didn't see any other choice. I needed to protect myself from the fallout of a potential divorce. But as I moved the assets, I realized just how much I was willing to sacrifice in order to keep my family and my peace of mind intact. 2 weeks passed. Sophie continued to act strangely, as if nothing was out of the ordinary, yet there was something in her demeanor, something too calculated, too purposeful. I had a nagging feeling that my suspicions were more than just paranoia. One evening, as I was sitting on the couch reading, Sophie walked into the room with a serious expression. "We need to talk," she said, her voice calm but firm. My heart sank. This was it, the moment I'd feared. I'd been waiting for the other shoe to drop, and now it had. I braced myself for the words I thought would come. "I want a divorce." But what happened next was something I wasn't prepared for. Sophie sat down beside me, her eyes downcast. "I don't know how to say this, but I've been thinking a lot about our marriage," she began. "I don't know if it's the right decision, but I'm not sure we're happy anymore. I've been feeling disconnected from you, and I don't know what to do." I was taken aback. This was not the conversation I'd expected. It wasn't the fiery confrontation or accusations I'd imagined, but there was a certain finality to her words. She was questioning everything. I could feel it in her tone, the underlying message of uncertainty. This wasn't a cry for help. It was a plea for something I couldn't quite grasp. But I wasn't about to let my guard down, not when I had already taken steps to protect myself. I kept my composure, even though my mind was racing. Was she about to drop the divorce bombshell? Or was this just her way of testing the waters? Was she hinting that she was leaving but needed some kind of confirmation from me first? I decided to stay calm and respond with measured words. "Sophie, if you're unsure about anything, we should talk it through. Let's see if we can work this out before making any drastic decisions." Her eyes flashed with something I hadn't seen before. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've come to a decision. I'm not happy, and I think it's time. We consider parting ways." I felt my chest tighten, but before I could react, she continued. "But here's the thing. I don't want to fight. I don't want to go through a bitter divorce. I don't want any drama. I want to walk away from this cleanly, with no mess. I could see where this was going. and my heart dropped into my stomach. She was telling me, without saying it outright, that she had a plan. And if that plan involved taking what was rightfully mine, I was prepared to make sure it didn't happen. Before I could say anything, Sophie stood up and handed me a document. "I've already spoken to my lawyer. We've come to an agreement." I took the document from her hands, my heart pounding in my chest. It was the first step toward a divorce, a legal agreement outlining how things would be divided. As I scanned the papers, my eyes stopped on one particular section: spousal support. Sophie will receive 60% of all joint assets, including real estate and savings. I couldn't believe it. She was already thinking ahead. She had planned this out, calculating how much she could get from me, and she had already enlisted a lawyer to make sure she would get her fair share. But then I remembered something. She had no idea I had moved my assets. The bank accounts, the investments, the property. Everything had been shifted to protect me from this exact moment. 2 weeks later, Sophie discovered that her plan had been foiled. The moment her lawyer ran the numbers and asked about the joint assets, they discovered that nearly all of the funds she expected to claim had been moved into an account in my name. Sophie was livid. The phone calls came in fast and furious, demanding explanations, threats to go public with the affair I didn't know about, and a series of angry texts. It became clear she had expected me to be blind to her plans, but I was prepared. I never meant for things to escalate like this. I didn't want to destroy our family, but I had to protect myself, and in the end, I had damaged her plan, leaving her to face the reality of what she had done. She called me once more after the chaos had settled. "How could you do this to me?" Sophie's voice was shaking, a mixture of anger and hurt. "You ruined everything." I let the silence hang in the air for a moment before responding. "I wasn't about to be blindsided. You may have thought I didn't see it coming, but I was protecting myself. You don't get to take everything just because you decided you weren't happy anymore." She fell silent on the other end, and when she finally spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. "I thought we were done. I didn't think you'd fight for us." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the conversation. "I'm fighting for me. I'm fighting for my future. And if you want to walk away, that's fine. But I won't be left with nothing." The divorce was finalized months later, but it wasn't the clean break Sophie had hoped for. The settlement was far from what she expected, and while she walked away with a portion of the assets, it wasn't nearly as much as she had planned. What happened next wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of trust, of partnership, and of everything we had fought for. In hindsight, I wonder if things would have been different if I hadn't taken action, if I had trusted Sophie more, or if I had confronted her directly instead of hiding behind asset protection. But at the end of the day, I did what I thought was best for me. The only question left now is whether I'll ever truly recover from the fallout. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories.